So this is one of those examples, Dave, where I said there's a weird silence which should be cut out while I'm trying to work on
I'm going to blow my nose then in that case. Oh, that's better.
And now for our more grateful podcast. Welcome, listener. You have come of your own free will to the appointed place. Ross, James, and their companions have ventured beyond the Sceptred Isle to find the hidden, the wicked, and the truly horrific. The film is over. The review begins. It is time to keep your appointment with the General Witchfinder, Folk in Hell.
Ladies and gentlemen, goblins and ghouls, welcome to the second episode of the General Witchfinder spin-off podcast, Folk in Hell. I'm James in Bournemouth in southern England.
And I'm Ross in Dorchester in southern England. And today we're joined by our special guest.
I'm David in Wareham in southern England.
Hey!
David is one of my other small group of friends, people I've decided I like. We'll do stuff.
Small friends.
Well, relatively small, aren't you? But I think it's just the fact that I'm gigantic.
I'm just far away.
When we said we was going to do this film, I was thinking definitely David would be a good one for this because he is my outdoor friend. So James is anti-camping. He's the antithesis of camping, whereas I often go camping with you, David. So I thought this might be a good film to bring you in on this. Tell our listeners a bit about yourself. You've got anything you want to plug in particular to our many tens of listeners out there?
I don't think I do. I'm not very interesting. I'm not as interesting as you two.
Oh, God,
I don't spend hours in front of films like.
Well, I think that makes you interesting.
No. I like listening to your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in awe of your specialist knowledge about films and everything.
Well, it's our ability to look up Wikipedia. I think that's more. That's what it all comes down to. And the person who actually does know stuff is not on this particular podcast. So
yeah.
The wheels can come off very quickly.
Yeah, this is my very first podcast. I'm normally out casting like a fly fishing rod this time of night in the summer. But it's nice to talk to you and be a part of it.
But thank you for dragging yourself away from the river, because I know that you get quite stressed out about getting as much time as you possibly can on there. Have you caught anything big recently?
I did catch an enormous fish, yes. An absolutely enormous fish. I caught it last year as well.
Oh, so you went back and caught it again, did you?
Yeah. Well, I keep in touch with him. I see him every couple of weeks. But I think it's only fair to catch him once a year. Yeah.
And is he
he's getting bigger.
Still a secret where he is?
Only a few people know where he is. Yeah.
It is strange that we did have a crossover person who listens to our podcast, but also into fly fishing, who did recognise you when you said we was going to come onto the podcast. That was our friend Lee Evans.
Yes. I know Lee through Twitter and Instagram. Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah,
so Lee's
cool.
probably listening to this. So Lee, this is someone you know.
Hi, Lee.
Cool. Well,
and being outdoors, Ross, is very much like another podcast that we're planning.
Oh yes. I don't know if James doesn't know about this. So David and I are going to be starting another podcast called Dark Darset, which is going to be an investigation into the weird and wonderful of like legends and sightings of weird stuff around Dorset. So we're going to be starting that up soon. So by the time this comes out, I imagine we might have the first episode up. So look up Dark Darset, spelled Darzet, and that should be up there on there.
Yeah, and I want to record that outdoors in the locations of the hauntings and the folklores at midnight, so it's really spooky.
So he's making it. Well, what we might do is add sound effects to make it sound like we're doing that. But as usual, David always tries to make things as hard for everyone to do as they possibly can. So like make people sleep outside with no tents or going on cabin trips where you have to have a satellite phone. and things like that. So I'm sure that will come up during the discussion of the film. So should we, James, you want to get into the
into
the background?
Or the Wikipedia page is long-term listeners. Daylight in on magic and all that. That's right.
Rob would have loved this place. He's a good man, the best of us. You know they have walking trails in England, pubs. Come on, man, where's your soul?
It's twisted. It's twisted.
All right, yep. Easy. Look, we go southwest through here. We cut the journey in half.
What, through the forest?
Yeah, why not? We should have gone to Vegas.
Oh, you'd have found something to fall over in Vegas too, mate. Now, is it me, or is it really quiet in here?
Been gutted. Could be hunters out here. On bait, possibly. Or it's the bit they don't show you in the nature documentary. It's a warning. We shouldn't be here.
Where the hell are we, Hutch?
We should pitch the tents.
This is ridiculous, man.
Luke, you're getting soaked.
You hear that?
No, I didn't hear anything. Come on.
Talk about it then or not?
It was a nightmare, Phil.
Well, what happened to you then?
We got spooked and we had bad dreams. All right?
I woke up last night. Look at this.
Nothing has done that to you. You've done it to yourself.
Why do you have to deny everything I say?
Because I do not value your judgment.
We need to be working together, man.
What the fuck is that? Fucking hell, we don't know where we are!
So, The Ritual is a 2017 British/Canadian horror film starring Rafe Spall, Arsher Ali, Robert James-Collier, and Sam Troughton, grandson of two-time General Witchfinder featured actor Patrick Second Doctor Troughton, or, as Ross has put down here, we like to call him Kinky Klove.
Yep.
I don't even get that, Ross.
Well, he was Clove in the Scars of Dracula,
right,
but he referred to himself as Kinky Klove because his character seemed to enjoy the sadistic punishments that Dracula
right,
gave
yeah. So sorry, everyone. That happened 48 hours ago, and I've already got no memory of it whatsoever. So anyway, yes, the film is based on the 2011 novel The Ritual by Adam Nevill, which we've been told by our listener, Mr. London, is pretty creepy. The original tagline that was used when advertising the film was, "They should have gone to Vegas." But due to the massacre that took place in Las Vegas on the 1st of October 2017, the tagline has now been changed to, "They should have gone to Ibiza." Although set in Sweden, helpfully clarified as being in Northern Europe by IMDB, the film was shot in location in the infamous Carpathian Mountains of Romania, where I have been.
Yes, there we go.
Nonetheless, let's add that to that. And also terrifying. I can tell you a story about that in a sec, possibly. Right, the screenwriter Joe Barton went on to write the excellent, according to Ross, Encounter, starring Riz Ahmed, which Ross highly recommends. And director David Bruckner went on to direct The Night House and has recently completed the reboot of the General Witchfinder favourite, in inverted commas, Hellraiser, coming to cinemas soon. So it's quite a timely and topical choice, I feel.
It's something which we find the more we do these, the more that we can always find some kind of connection, particularly if there's British people involved. So yeah, pretty good. So this is one you picked for us to watch, James.
Yes, my reason for it was that I caught 5 minutes of it while channel hopping one night. It was either on, it might be on Film 4 or just on Channel 4 per se. And it was the section towards the end where Rafe Spall is tied up and he breaks his thumb to escape. And straight away, like, well, that's Rafe Spall. I recognise Rafe Spall. What the fuck's this? I've never saw. What's happening? What's happening? And then I watched another 5 minutes of it and thought, oh, now this looks really interesting, and I know nothing about this film, but I don't want to watch because it felt like it was building up to the end. It felt like I was like, oh. So I thought, I know, I will stop watching this now, and then at some point in the future, I'll take the opportunity to watch it. So that is why I ended up picking it, because once again, it's our criteria for Folk in Hell, which is, it's a horror film which is not set within the British Isles. So it's kind of a cousin, isn't it? It's kind of British-esque. There's a lot of British talent in it and things such as that, but,
it's basically films John won't watch. So it's stuff which is made in the 21st century. Yeah, I've watched this with me and Beck watched this a little while back, and it is a really good film. It was one of my top scoring films of the year on my letterbox. So yeah, I was really pleased when this came up. I think maybe it sort of lost some of the impact watching it a second time when you knew what the thing in the woods was, but it was good. So David, had you seen or heard, because you're not a horror fan, are you?
I'm not a horror fan, and normally when you tell me to watch a film, I have to almost sedate myself and sit in front of the telly and watch it and then think of the barrage of abuse I'm going to send you. But I did actually enjoy this one. It was a very slow start. I couldn't get into it to begin with, and I didn't really believe it, and then they made all these catalogue of silly mistakes, and I thought, here we go. But then actually it improved. I think the atmosphere was really good, the tension built, and luckily it was only 90 minutes anyway, so it didn't end up being a gore fest. I thought it was just right. It was, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I can remember one Christmas you were very kind and let us come and spend Christmas Day at your house, David, and I made you watch Black Christmas, which is the film with in the sorority house with the weird guy in the loft dressed as a woman.
And he pokes his fingers through the walls, doesn't he, and pokes girls' eyes out and drags them into the walls. Caroline still has nightmares about that at Christmas time. Yeah,
so I'm sorry about that. But and I think the other horror film I made you watch is
leaving a trail of trauma in his wake, as always.
All right, so we get into the story then. So it starts off in a British pub, which I thought I was trying to work out this time, because you hear the sound of the TV before it fades into the pub, and I was trying to work out, is there a reason for that? I don't think there was. No, anyone else get any reason behind that? I don't know if it's a football-related thing, because I'm not interested in football in any way. I
just think it's that scene-setting thing, is you immediately know you're in England. Rather than anything else. That is the culture. Outside of the Wetherspoons, that is, if you go into most pubs, chances are there'll be a game of football on, and things that, so.
And then we have the group of friends, which I always find in these type of films is like a completely unrealistic group of people who would not be friends in real life, all calling each other mate.
In my experience, one of them is always like ridiculously successful, way more successful than the others.
Always, they did say that, didn't they?
Yeah, and it's just like, well, when you start to sort of move in higher, kind of social strata, what do I know?
We'll leave all the plebs behind, don't we, James?
Yes.
But yeah, so they're sort of talking about where they're going to go on their sort of lads' holiday away, but they can't agree on it. I think some people want to go to Ibiza, some want to go to Vegas, and then one of the chaps suggested going on a hiking holiday, and they kind of leave it at that, and then it's like the post pub sort of like discussion if they're going to carry on drinking or not, and
classic discussion
on a school night as well.
On a school night,
yeah.
I can always remember, James, coming back to your house after getting absolutely blathered, and then you just carry on drinking beer, and I'm like, we're at home now. Why are we drinking? But yeah, so Rafe Spall and his friend go into the generic off license with lots of like completely unconvincing generic bottle labels. And buy a bottle of vodka in the shape of bottle which vodka never comes in. Which is like, if I was on the art department, none of that would have got through. And then they have there's a hold up in the pub, in the off license. And Rafe Spall is hiding behind the shelf when his friend gets...
Exactly what I do. Yeah. Exactly what I do. I empathise with him hugely. Just hide. I'm a natural coward.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where I always imagine that I would do something, but the only times where I've actually something like this has occurred, I've got incredibly frightened. But you guys know about the time that guy tried to get into our house?
Yes.
Yeah. So for our listeners, me and Beck got woken up about 3 o'clock in the morning, and we could hear someone trying to get in through the front door of the house. And I was looking back, and I was talking to my daughter about this the other day, that I'm surprised that my reaction to that kind of thing is just to get incredibly loud and like stamp down the stairs as loud as I can, and like
Ross is coming, everyone.
Yeah, hoping that people would be scared away by the noise I'd make, and then my only response to this guy was just to shout "fuck off" really loud at him until he left. But yeah, it's one of those things you hope that you would stand up for yourself, but I don't think you would, especially if that guy had a massive machete, didn't he?
Yeah, but you would, Ross. I'd rather go to an off licence with you than with James.
Can't blame you.
Yeah. Has anyone ever have to confront someone in real life who, in this manner?
I don't know. We had an odd thing in the local pub a few years ago, and a friend of mine. It was right at the last knockings, or even after hours. And there was a very small group of us, and this chap got quite angry, very out of character for our local pub. And one of my friends just hid behind the pillar. He was the tallest person there. He works in a job where kind of jumping into those kind of things would be the norm, and he hid behind the pillar.
Yeah, but I think being a tall person, though, often if there is some nutter, they do seem to go for the tallest person in the group, because it does. I don't know if it's like a thing they've got to try.
I'm the same height as you, mate. I've never had that experience.
Well, maybe
I'd go for the weakest, smallest first if I was picking people up.
Maybe it's just I've got a punchable face then. Right. Yeah. So unfortunately, his friend gets killed before his eyes.
That was quite shocking, wasn't it? Actually, when he got hit a couple of times, I didn't expect that to happen.
Well, I've seen it before and didn't expect it, and still jumped. So it was well done. There was a nice sort of loud whacking noise, and it was quite visceral, wasn't it? And even though I've seen it before, I thought my memory was he chopped his finger off to get the wedding ring. But that's my Mandela moment of like that didn't actually happen. That was in my memory. So yeah, then we cut to Sweden when they're actually off doing the holiday.
Yes, to honour his memory, they've opted to go for the Swedish hiking experience, haven't they? So
for a holiday that none of them want to do, clearly.
And just to say,
again, I can empathise.
Yeah, none of you need to do this for me ever. So
okay, where would you want to go? Where would be your
to scatter my ashes?
No, I'm not just scatter your ashes, but if it had been let's go on like some of the places, like the one time you wanted us to go to Hastings.
Yeah,
I'm not going to Hastings, Ross.
Yeah. Is that a history festival, Ross?
No, it was because I listened to Mark Steele Goes To, and he went to Hastings, and everyone in the audience sounded absolutely mad. So it sounded like a good place to go to. So Hastings and the Forest of Dean are two places where the people just sounded absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And I thought, I would love to go to a Wetherspoons in one of these places, because you're bound to have an interesting evening.
In many ways, I imagine Hastings Wetherspoons will probably be more as terrifying as this film.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a similar thing.
Speaking of Hastings, did you know that Bio Tapestry is in high resolution on the internet, and you can just look at it?
Yeah.
I found that really interesting the other day.
Just look at it.
So
just look at it.
I was listening to a podcast about it, and then they were telling you could, with your imaginary history.
My fictional TV wife, Dr. Nina Ramirez.
Yeah, she was talking all about it. So it was so it was really good. So if I'm going to inspire anyone today from this podcast, go and look at the Bio Tapestry. It's very interesting.
Online.
Yeah, online. There's loads of cocks in it, apparently.
Especially if you live in Hastings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Hastings, I will be coming to you one day, even if James doesn't come with me. But you are probably the only person who would. So
there you go. Right. So yes. So to Sweden, we find them, and what I found with this film is just as an aside for a moment, is that a few years ago, my sister said to me, I don't think, with the exception of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, she said there's not really been any really kind of good horror films that have like a strong female lead. And she said, I really think that if we wrote this, we could sell it. And I was a bit reticent, because I don't think my writing skills are up to all that. She's much better than I am. But she said, will you help me? And I said, of course, yeah, sure. And she enrolled us onto a script writing thing for a day, where they sit you down and they say, this is how you do a Hollywood script. And ever since I went on this day, every time you watch certain films, you're just like, this is so sticking to the formula they told us that day. And this film is remarkably like on the formula. The whole thing of, it's like, right, okay, they said to us, if you're going to write a script, write either a horror or a romantic comedy. Because they said that's what people will go and see. And they said that's what can always sell. And what I think is interesting now is that, like, post-pandemic, with the way that people consume films, is I think people are going to the cinema less. And so that whole thing of, well, you've got to create a film for the audience that actually goes to the cinema, I think that era may be coming to an end. So we may start, I think we could start to get a slight shift there. But still, yeah, they said, so you do a horror, it should be about an hour and a half long, and then it should be like, set the scene, suddenly there's a catastrophe, which forces them all to sort of rally together, and then this happens, and it all looks like it's all going to be all right, or something interesting happens, and then it all like crashes right down to what they call the big gloom, and then you have the big, everything looks like it's dark and despair, and it's all bad, but then the guy rallies around at the end and kind of escape. And as I watched this, I thought they have absolutely stuck. So that's it's kind of the Hollywood pattern for this film.
Well, yeah, but all the criticism on this film I've read online was saying it's just by the numbers, and I agree. It's just the monster for me, which does it. Well, we'll come to that in a minute, but you like you said, it is a bit slow going at the beginning. It's inevitable that they're gonna get lost in the woods. It's inevitable someone's going to get hurt. So essentially, Sam Troughton's character, who is like the annoying one with the glasses, falls over, hurts his leg. And they decide that they're going to take a shortcut in order to get him back easier. David, as the outdoorsman at this point, would you have gone off piste in order to get back quicker?
No.
What would you have done in this situation?
No, never. I would have probably split the group up and two gone the correct way home and come back with some help if we really couldn't walk. I did spend a lot of the film saying, oh my God, I can't believe they've done that. And even, how do you get back and report that someone's been killed and hung from a tree? How do you deal with that as a group leader?
That. When you get back, you're like, right, now sit down, everyone. This is going to be very hard to explain.
Yeah. What did we learn from the expedition this time?
Yeah. But as we know, even if they did get to a pub or something, all the locals would have been in on it, so you'd have been fucked anyway. And also, you'd have to speak to, where are they? Sweden. Because I know they was in Transylvania. I keep thinking it's in Transylvania, but trying to get people to understand what's going on. I can remember when I was on a cycling holiday in France and I got a puncher. It took me ages to get someone to understand I had a puncher and like help me find where I could get
they just didn't want to help you.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Ross, our French teacher, the deputy head, Mr. Parsons, would be utterly dismayed to hear that. Isn't like French for tyre, like for new or something like that, like something to do with pneumatic? I remember.
Yeah. I remember when I took my French oral exam. Yeah, I couldn't answer anything, and he just sat there shaking his head. And just
that man could do the best. In my role now, I try and replicate that dismay. He had power dismay.
He always had his tie over one shoulder because he'd always been running somewhere to break a fight up. So
he was all action. He was awesome. Yeah. He's a top man.
Lots of paintings of Lancaster bombers in his office.
Yeah. What was weird was that, of course, many years later, I ended up working with him.
Yeah.
Which was, and the weirdest thing is even though I was on the other side of the desk, all the rest of it, I could not call him Keith. So even though I'd say, "Morning, sir," and he's like, "You can call me Keith." And I was like, "I can't." I absolutely. He was such a terrifying presence as we were teenagers. He was always Mr. Parsons, and he was always Sir. Yeah. And so it took me, and I worked with him for about 3 years, and it was only towards like the end of the third year that I should go, "Good morning, Keith." It feels weird. I'm gonna get in trouble. But yeah. Sorry, Ross.
But they don't do what our residential Bush friends said they should have done. They end up going off to it. So the trope I was looking for at this point was where I was looking to see if the compass would stop pointing north. That's what normally happens in these films, isn't it? But
weirdness.
They get lost in these woods, and I think it was something about those woods would sort of creep me out a bit, where it was all pine trees.
Yep.
And there was and you couldn't see through them because they was all straight. They was all staggered, so you couldn't see any distance. I could envision like just being terrified, and you could easily lose your friends, I reckon, if one of you went off.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't see which...
and it was all very dark, wasn't it? Because no light penetrates through.
Yeah.
And it's all quite dry and crispy as you walk through it.
Yeah. And they find like a abandoned Volkswagen camper van, which is on the poster. So they were obviously very pleased with that prop. But yeah, that's a red herring. Doesn't go anywhere with that. Apart from they do find an abandoned tent, don't they, which has been buried with a wallet with like pictures from people from the 80s and stuff. So it does imply this has happened before, because later on in one of the cabins they've almost got like all the people's possessions from other people who got lost in those woods. Which would make you think if that amount of people got lost in that location, the police would be all over it trying to find where like tens of people have gone missing.
I found the bit when they were hiking totally unbelievable at first, because they've all got they're not dirty. They look like they've just come straight out the shops with all their kit. It's pristine and new, and yet if you were going to go on an expedition buy new kit, you'd buy proper kit. And when they got to the abandoned house as well, and it's pissing with rain, and they've got their sleeping bags on the outside of their rucksacks, and yet when they're sleeping, everything looks bone dry again.
And one of them was just, his bag was just hanging down as well, wasn't it?
And they don't even feel like they're wearing heavy rucksacks the way they're, and they're not kind of tired and sweating. And
not carrying their canoe or kayak. I always get mixed up. What do you have, a canoe or a kayak?
I have a kayak, but I would only carry a canoe.
So
when we went to Canada, when we went to Canada, we were canoeing through the lakes and then portaging with the canoes on our shoulders.
Wait, it sounds lovely, James. But from David's description of it, it sounded absolutely horrible. Was this like would you say your trip to Canada was like your most wilderness adventure you've done?
Oh yeah, by far. It was. There was three of us in two canoes. We decided to go across one of the big wilderness parks, Algonquin Park, which is about the size of Wales, and we gave ourselves 6 days to do it, because we'd got drunk and watched a YouTube video where someone did it in 6 days, but actually having come back and watched the YouTube video, they did it in 8 days, and we were just too drunk to do the maths ourselves. So it was really, really tough. And we had all our food and tents and everything we needed for those 6 days, and we were doing kind of 30, 40 kilometers a day. We were paddling across lakes, and then we'd have to kind of portage for a few hundred meters over a ridge into the next lake.
Could you explain what portage means, David, to the uninitiated?
Portage is when you get to the end of the lake, and the only way to the next bit of water is to carry everything across land.
Yeah.
So we did them all actually in one go. So we had a rucksack on our back each. We had the food was in a big bear-proof blue barrel that went on someone's front.
Wow.
We had the canoes on two of our shoulders. And you're going through forest, not too dissimilar to what is in this film. So very tight weaving in and out of trees. One night, and there was a bit in this film that is just like this, when he's in the tent and the monster walks past the outside. I had an episode in the tent one night. We had 3 one-man tents, and we'd go to bed. We'd have a hot chocolate and whiskey on the fire before we went to bed, because we were absolutely beat every day. And we try not to think about the bears and all the things that could bite us or eat us or kill us at night.
Crumbs.
We tried not to think about loved ones at home. And the best way of doing that was just playing Top Gear episodes on someone's phone, and then the others could listen to it in their tent. And because you know them off by heart, don't you, even though they're years ago. And then this one night, just as I was going to sleep, I heard footprints going past my tent. And I was frozen with fear. And I just managed to shout, "Fuck off!" And at that point, I wasn't getting out of the tent, but my 2 friends got out of their tents. It was baking hot at night, so they're just running around the campsite in their underpants with head torches on and bear spray at the ready.
So do you think you're pretty sure it was a bear?
No, I don't think it was a bear at all. But it was bigger than a squirrel or something like that. Probably about the size of a deer.
Yeah.
But you're in a tent and you think you're really safe, but you can hear everything outside. It's like amplified, can't you?
This is so I got a question I'll ask you quickly, then I'll go into my fear of tents. Why did you have 3 one-man tents? Because when they was watching this, they all each had a tent, and I thought, well, surely it'd be easier just to have one tent.
Someone's got to carry it,
but then you can share it out, and you would have less to carry, I imagine. Is it just like for private time.
Yeah, we were too tired for private time. I think I don't know, maybe we just had one-man tents already.
Right.
Yeah, they're smaller and they're lighter and they're easier to pack.
Rather than, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and tents always feels to be like you're trapping yourself in somewhere which you can't escape from. You can't see what's outside, and you're just... And
you feel vulnerable.
Yeah, I often be on a campsite, and I'd be like... I feel, even in our enormous tent, which we've got, which is like half the size of my house, you do feel vulnerable, because you feel like, if someone wants to come in here, I'm going to have to get out of the sleeping bag, I'm going to have to unzip this, and then I'm going to have to sort of like... And by that point, they could have got in here with a knife. Then I often just fall asleep. That's just the last thought.
I think you need to camp in nicer areas.
Yeah, exactly.
But I also think that's one of the driving things behind this film, and I think it also taps into the same thing as Blair Witch Project did back in the 1990s, which is that we as a species have become so accustomed to light, warmth, surrounded, and knowing where you are, and the familiarity of the world around you. Just even the suggestion of you're going to be somewhere and you don't know where you are, and you're lost. And you don't know what's out there. That's something very primal for us, isn't it? As human beings, just immediately puts you on the back foot.
Security.
So I think that's one of the things that they were going for here.
And also that idea that you've got not enough tents have windows in them as well. I think because you often are like
they did in the 70s.
Yeah, and like paint on window panes and stuff.
Yeah,
but the fact that someone could touch the outside of your tent and you don't know who it is, that is just such a creepy, horrible feeling. So up until this point, it's just been by the numbers horror film. But then they find this hut and break in, and they stay in. And that's where it starts getting good for me. But just before that, I was trying to work out, because I think deep down I am a massive pussy. And that's the I've got to think of a better word, because John wouldn't like us saying
coward.
I'm a massive coward. In as much as breaking rules, and I don't think, even if I was absolutely soaking, I would break a door down to get inside a shed. Or
I would look for a key first. They didn't even look for a key, did they? Under a plant pot?
No, they smashed it in. But yeah, I just feel like the idea of destroying someone else's property, which is just.
How do you feel about smashing a table and chairs up to burn that?
Yeah, but they seem to escalate after that point as well. So in order to burn things.
They got what they deserved.
Yeah, exactly. So they break into this it's a boofy a word, isn't it? That's what, they have those in.
That's the Scottish. Yeah.
Yeah, or like a hut. There was a gun on the wall in there, which I would have got off the wall pretty quickly when all this stuff started kicking off. They start breaking furniture and stuff in order to try and keep the place warm. But then one of them goes upstairs and they find something which David has already said he's going to try and reproduce as a work of art.
For when we go camping next.
Yes.
They found upstairs. Sorry, James. They found an idol had been made, and it's like a straw body. Had really peculiar feet. I thought it was like a
chicken feet or something.
Yeah, like ducks feet from a Chinese restaurant. But it had a wicker body and no head, but then some antlers
for hands, which was pretty creepy.
Yeah, I quite like that.
Yeah, the sort of thing you don't want to find in the place where you're going to sleep.
That's the very folk horror-y aspect, isn't it? Yeah. So that and the runes. Once again, you're tapping into again something old, something ancient, which is immediately puts you at your unease.
Yeah.
And
so
then,
James, go.
No, I was going to say, and then that night, strange dreams are afoot.
Yeah. So we have the first. I think this is. Maybe the first or second occurrence of Rafe Spall dreaming of the off license again, and these are quite well done. It's almost like the location where he's in become the so that the lightning turns into the flashing of the fluorescent lights in the shop and stuff, which is good. And so he wakes up with a start, and then we find out one of the guys has pissed himself, which was I think was a nice sort of relatable. Not that I piss myself often, but like embarrassing thing to happen in front of your friends. One of the friends is having he won't wake up. He's almost like sleep talking in the corner, and the other one is upstairs. Is he naked? I can't remember. I think he's either naked or in his pants, like stuck like in a prayer position in front of this idol, and involuntary sort of like sleep praying to this thing. So and I couldn't remember what happened, but I said to Beck, something bad's going to happen now with that idol. I thought. My memory was what they had sex with each other without realising it.
Once again, Ross, not that I've ever pissed myself in front of my friends. Oh, no, my Mandela effect. I thought all of these men started getting it on.
I think maybe that was wish fulfillment. But maybe that's an episode of Peep Show, isn't it, where they can't remember what they did the night before. Yeah. But yeah, really creepy. I thought that was really effective, and this is when the film started getting good for me at this point.
I feel that it's... at this point, I said before we get up to as we're heading towards kind of like the village, what I should say is that part of the reason and one of the reasons why I chose it, along with the fact that I've only ever seen 5 minutes of it, is inevitably we will do Midsummer at some point on this podcast. And I found it absolutely when I suddenly realised, I thought, wait a minute, what came out first? And the answer is this.
Yeah.
This is first.
Yeah.
And I thought, it's fascinating in many ways. What the big thing that I took away from this was it's almost like saying to two chefs, here are the same ingredients. Now go away and make something. Because the same things of you're in Sweden and you're in the middle of nowhere and you there is no possible way for you to get out of this.
You're recovering from a traumatic experience.
Exactly. And you are also you are encountering a way of life and something which is, if not ancient, beyond your comprehension. They're exactly the same elements.
Yeah.
Whereas this was far more kind of, here comes the monster kind of thing. Whereas Midsummer, it's more kind of psychological, isn't it? But that's what I just found so fascinating, was I thought this film is like a cousin to Midsummer.
Yeah, one's at night time and one's at daytime as well.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
The dark and the light versions of yeah. Good call.
Thank you.
So
I'm not used to getting a compliment.
I'll cut that out, don't worry.
Yeah, of course.
But something which we didn't mention, something which I've forgotten was from my first watching. As it sounded now, I just watched some porn film, which I'm thinking this is what this is about. But Rafe Spall's got like this weird sort of like puncture marks in his chest.
Yes,
which he immediately hides from the others, which I would never do. It'd be like, look, what's going on here?
What's happened to me?
It sounds like it seems to me they're all equal victims of this weird night of dreams, aren't they? They no one can explain what happened. It makes them all very equal. They're all victims, and yet he covers that up, and it doesn't bleed through like it should.
No, exactly. But this starts breaking their sort of camaraderie up a bit as well, don't they? They all start like arguing about what they're going to do next, and this is where they find the first thing hanging in the trees, isn't it? They find like the gutted, is it a moose or a deer or something along these lines? And I thought it was quite good that one of them says, this is still bleeding, so whatever put it up there,
it's fresh.
It's fresh. This is we're near, so we need to move away from here. I was just saying to Beck, I was listening to a podcast recently about I can't remember which one it is. It was a serial killer from New York in the early 90s, and he killed about 17 or 18 sex workers. And I was listening to it while I was doing the washing up, and they were saying...
That's the detail, Ross.
And they were saying when he killed and dismembered the first victim, it made a lot of mess. And then the second one, he left it for a day, and then he dismembered it, and it made a lot less mess because the blood had coagulated. Coagulated, yeah. Like, I remember whilst washing up thinking, that's useful to know. And I was like, that is not useful to know. I'm never gonna...
It is if you want to leave your washing up an extra day.
Yeah, well, leaving your washing up for a day makes it harder to wash up because the gets all sticky. But yeah, I've got to stop having those thoughts about like, that is, if I am going to chop someone up, leave them a day before you start chopping them up. They bed down for the night again. There's another nightmare. They wake up with someone screaming, and one of the tents has been ripped apart, and one of the people's been pulled up, has disappeared, and they can hear him screaming in the woods again. Very, very Blair Witch, but effective. And it's a case of, what do? Do you run out trying to help your friend? You can hear screaming. And allow yourself to get potentially lost or fall victim yourself, or do you stay and just listen to them suffering? I think that
that's one of the elements that worked for me when I was watching. I was like, that's good. I like that. I like the whole.
Yeah.
What do we do? The indecision. I think maybe I don't know, be interested to see what you two think. Like towards the end, where Rafe Spall gets a bit too kind of action hero-y, in a way, and he's like, "Well, I know what to do." I quite like it when people don't know what to do in films. I find it far more believable, and And
again, watching this makes me feel like. First, it makes me stress up because if I know I was in that situation with Beck, my wife who was on a recent episode, we would just spend the whole time arguing about what we're going to do and never actually get anything done. So it is quite a stressful situation.
I was screaming at the telly, go back, you'll get lost. And then they did go back, and I had a little cheer. It worried me when they put their torches on, because as soon as you see torches going on, you think the batteries are going to run out eventually.
And there was a point where the sun's come up, and they've still got their torches on, and I was going, turn the torches off. You don't need all three of you to have the torches on at the same time either.
Ruin your night vision.
Exactly. And also, if you're hiding from something in the woods, don't have a light source which is going to attract that thing
Give
to
you
you.
Away.
Exactly. Yeah. Just dig into a hole and just hide there until the morning. Don't do anything. So the next morning, they still haven't found their friend, and they find this guy called Hutch, who was in Coronation Street apparently, but I don't watch that. So, but Beck was
and Downton Abbey.
Yeah, and Downton Abbey.
I was reminded.
So they find him gutted up on one of the trees as well. So we know
things are going very badly wrong now.
Yeah, exactly. But they've also identified there are some paths in the woods which have got strange kind of like notched tree stumps and stuff.
Runes.
Yeah, and and they notice all the runes, don't they, when they come out of the house, all put into which made me think about very briefly having rune tattoos, but then I thought,
no, don't, Ross. It's all really kind of Nazis that do that. It's all been sort of co-opted by Nazis. Don't get a Nazi tattoo.
Yeah, there's often things like that. I say, I like that, and then someone reminds me that is either something a Nazi would do, or something which is really big in gay culture. Because I remember
once again, Ross, the evidence against you is mounting here.
I can remember when I got really into Julie Garland when I was at school.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, and then you was like. And then you explained to me what a friend of Dorothy was. So I was like, yeah, you told me that when we was in Camden. I can remember. Because I was looking for pictures of Julie Garland in a shop in Camden.
He was!
Oh, Ross.
Just can't be.
Anyway.
I just need to be my authentic self, don't I? Really?
That's true. That's true. You know, kind of, look, Harry Styles is leading the way, Ross. If he can get away with wearing a dress.
Yeah. Let's do it. I wasn't tilting the camera down.
I thought you were moving the camera down to show us.
I read online as well that the runic symbols apparently all relate, and they say it means property.
Oh, okay. So
kind of like you're on
private property.
Yes. Yeah. You're in the area now. Yeah. So okay, that's good. That's good. I like that.
Rafe Spall sees that something is in the woods, and that's a nice bit where you see a hand up on one of the trees, really too high up to be human. Yeah. And I remember the first time I watched it, I do hope that people are watching these films before we review them.
Ruin them.
And we completely ruin them. Even though the last one we did, The Innocents, which is a brilliant film, David, if you haven't watched it, I know you don't like it.
But I am making a note of it.
Yeah, it's a Norwegian film.
Yeah,
so many people have got to contact us and say, "Oh, that sounds like a good film." After listening to your podcast, we're going to watch it. We completely ruined that. Like every beat of that film.
We talk you through the whole thing.
Films, yeah, so I hope you've watched this film before you listen to this. So they have an argument about burying the friend who's up in the tree, and then another one of the guys is dragged away by an unseen creature. So I forgot there was this other character who, the one who was praying, he's pretty inconsequential. So we are left out. Yeah, Phil. So we are now left just with Rafe Spall and Patrick Troughton's grandson. Poor Sam Troughton, who will be forever referred to as the grandson of Kinky Klove. So they make a run for it, and the creature gives them chase. You still don't see what the creature is, but they find themselves back on the track which they was on earlier, and those weird sort of carved tree stumps have now got torches in them. So there are people there.
I think they're like Swedish torches, Ross, which is where you find a pine tree that's kind of fallen, died, so the root is still nicely in the ground. And if you cut a cross in the top of it and fill it with kind of kindling, you set it alight, and then the whole trunk kind of burns as a candle or a torch for many hours.
I think they were selling something like that in Aldi the other day. Because my brother-in-law had one.
Always.
Yeah, because I walked into like a family barbecue the other night. Just as I opened the door, one of these things was just burning, just like on the floor. Yeah. There was like a 1.5-year-old just wandering around near it, whilst my father-in-law was just like looking at the pictures on the back of his camera, not paying attention to this thing at all. Yeah, instant anxiety for me about like fire, children, people. Yeah, so that was a beginning of a stressful evening. So they run into one of the buildings which are in this sort of like village, and it get knocked out. And then they find when they wake up, they find that they are tied up inside the cellar. And an elderly woman sort of enters, and she inspects them, and she sees like the marks on Rafe Spall's chest, and then she reveals that she's got the same mark.
She's got the marks, yeah.
Which did that go anywhere, or have I missed something? Was there like a reason for that? Was it like he was being marked?
I felt that he was being marked, and this is one of these things. As we build towards the end and we talk about it, it's kind of like for me, like the unfulfilled potential of this film, and the same way, it's a cousin to Midsummer, and the way that like Midsummer is more psychological and goes inside the head. I thought, are they going to play with something to do with Rafe Spall's guilt? Yeah, and the fact that he can't let go of that guilt. And then I felt when she revealed that she had the marks, as we got towards the end. It's are you going to join us? You've been chosen. You're not being killed. The monster has said you could, and it's up to you. Are you going to stay with us? Yeah. Or do we need to sacrifice you? That was how I interpreted it, but I'm sure that may
I think the same. There was a line in the film that said you've been chosen because of your great pain, I think. Yeah. Or maybe I read that online, but it's because he had that guilt watching his friend die in the off license. He was dealing with a lot more trauma, and that's why he was chosen. And even when he's fighting the monster right at the end, he gets another chance, doesn't he, to deal with his pain and give in. But yes,
and I think maybe it just wasn't. There was something there, and I imagine maybe it's in the book more than the film. But it feels like it was something which maybe to this bear with very little brain needed to be rammed home a little bit more, because it felt like that was going to go somewhere, but it didn't go far enough. Agree. But maybe sometimes these things are better left for your imagination, for you to sort of put your stuff on there. Something which is great, which is happening while there's this weird sort of like droning chanting coming up, constantly happening from somewhere in the building. It made me think a bit of like. I did this great like locked room thing once, and you end up in Albert Speer's office, and you can hear.
Whoa! Wait, Ross, you've rushed through that a little bit quick there for my liking. Number one, you were doing a locked room thing, and you've ended up once again. So first of all, we're getting Ross, my sexuality experimentation years, and then number two, he's now suggested that he wanted to get a runic tattoo, which has got Nazi overtones, and now you're in Albert Speer's office. Yeah, what is going on, man?
It was a really good locked room thing where you have to travel through time in order to get the Spear of Destiny back. And
where the fuck was this?
It was it was somewhere in London. It was brilliant. You started off and you went through this portal and you was on a space station, right? And then you went. Then you ended up going to like ancient Egypt, and you had to. And there was this brilliant bit with these massive pillars, and there was a laser beam, and you have to like turn the pillars to get the hieroglyphs to line up, and then the laser beams would hit all these mirrors, and then it went onto the sarcophagus, which opened up, and inside there was a reel-to-reel tape recorder, and the Spear of Destiny being taken out of there, and he goes, "Oh, he's made a run for it," and he goes, "I'm getting goosebumps figuring out," and he goes, he's run somewhere, and he goes, "You're not going to like where he's gone now," and this door opens, and you can hear Hitler like, all this, and you go into Albert Speer's office, and that's what,
I'm going to say, are you sure you weren't just doing really strong hallucinogens?
I wish
people just saying to you,
I told you before.
Look, I'm sorry, sir, this is a Costa. Well, you're going, move the pillars, the laser. Albert Speer's here.
It was really scary and exciting. Okay. And we failed, by the way.
Oh no!
We ran out of time at the last point.
Bummer.
Yeah, but yeah, it made me think of like that thing when you could hear like. Remind me of that, of like hearing like Nazi sort of like shouting and stuff. It's something in another language in another room, and you don't know what's going on in that other room.
There's plenty of people in that mob.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And his friend Sam Troughton gets taken off, and you can hear him being tortured. And this is something which always happens in films, or not. It doesn't always happen in films. It didn't happen like in Dumbo, for example. That someone breaks their thumb in order to get out of a binding. Do you think that's a thing which you can do?
Well, I'm sure I've banged on about this many times before, Ross, that no one ever is seemingly tied down properly in films.
No.
And as a result, it's left me with the weird and absolutely baseless feeling like, I reckon if someone tied me up, I could get out of it. Yeah. I've seen enough films. Either just like go like this, like rock the chair from side to side, and then like, oh, the chair's broken up on the floor.
Yeah.
Or they never do the bindings tight enough.
Yeah, but he manages to break his own thumb.
They leave a glass bottle just within reach.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
He broke his thumb and then he has to fight for his life with one hand.
Yeah. And fires a rifle at some point. Reloads and fires a rifle. And when he was reloaded, because he does get out, he grinds a rifle. And I said to Beck at that point, I really need to have some gun training because I wouldn't know how to. If this happened, I wouldn't know how to. Someone comes into
your tent.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how to load a gun. Would you know?
I'll show you how to use my. Yeah, but I'll show you how to use my my recurve bow next time we're together, Ross.
I've just
done an archery course.
Oh, cool! Well,
yeah.
I reckon I could probably pick that up pretty quickly. But if someone gave me a gun and a rifle and some bullets and broke my thumb, I don't think I could pick up it quick enough in order to reload that gun and shoot it. But
we should point out before we get onto that the fact that the whole thing is, and for me, once again, along with the whole kind of that was the really interesting thing there, and I would have loved more on that if they would have obviously had a bigger budget or more time, and not just. But we find out that the whole that this monster is from Swedish kind of mythology.
Yes,
and they keep him alive in exchange for immortality.
Yes.
That's brilliant. I'm immediately sold on that. I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm interested.
And we see the creature now, which is like some kind of giant, like moose elk type thing. But,
it's weird.
But it's also got like a big like fanny with eyes in it, and and it's got human hands.
Yeah,
and it's great because I've never seen a monster like that before, and I was very I remember the first time watching this.
It's called a Moda, is that right?
Which is like the son of Loki, isn't it? Or the daughter of Loki.
Son of Loki.
Yeah.
Which is great. Excellent creature design. And I love the fact that it's like an animal. It's not like something which can talk or... Yeah, it's really good.
I did like not seeing it.
Yes.
I was more fearful of it from the glimpses we got and the atmosphere. I'm glad the film didn't go on too long after we saw it, if you know what I mean. That suspense is kind of broken there, but it is, it's a totally believable kind of beast, isn't it?
Yeah, and I like the fact that the only thing we kind of saw of it up until that point were hands. So you automatically assume it's going to be a humanoid in shape, but it's not. It's a four-legged creature with like hands coming out of its giant fanny face. Which is great. David, have you got any moose stories at this point?
I don't. No, we didn't see any moose. No, but they're really big, apparently, aren't they? They're enormous.
I see. I can remember us having a conversation about moose, and the way you described them, they sounded as big as elephants, which I felt was almost maybe.
Well, I've seen them on MythBusters.
Yeah.
Where they drive a car at a model moose because. The moose weighs kind of 3 or 4 tons, its body and its head, but it's got these tiny little kind of matchstick legs that break instantly. So the car will smash the legs and you just get this massive weight coming straight towards your head and you die instantly.
Death by moose.
Yeah. To be honest, we were making quite a lot of noise as we went along just in case we did see something that was going to kill us.
Yeah.
We'd like it to run off into the woods first. So that's what I would do if I was going through the woods in Sweden. I would make a lot of noise.
The Ross Cleaver defence mechanism of making lots of noise. And as you did, shout "fuck off" at it, and that seemed to work.
As you did on the doorstep.
Yeah, exactly. At this point, Sam Troughton has been tied up, and he's going to be. It gave me sort of feelings of King Kong a bit, where Fay Ray is tied up, and they're waiting for the beast to come through the bushes. But then he sees it as his wife coming to see him, that was a nice touch and also not explained in any way.
No, quite random, I thought.
Yeah, but an interesting thing. Yeah. But then he just gets picked up by the hands, and then he gets impaled onto the tree.
And from this point, I did just think, is this just going to be like a really dark ending? And it's just kind of so that's why what then does actually happen to denouement was a bit like, oh, that was unexpected. They were kind of setting it up to be very, very dark.
Rafe Spall fights back. Essentially, Yeah, goes up into the loft where we've been hearing this chanting to find it's mummified.
Yes,
like a congregation.
So that's the interesting thing, is that the price for the immortality is that you stay alive, but of course you become incredibly like desiccated and mummified. And for me, that's really interesting. It's like, I would have liked more on this, or I'd like the films to have been more suspenseful about this. It was all too much of a bit like it's a great idea and we're done.
Yeah, I love the idea that like, you can hear them chant, but when you went in the room, they stopped chanting, and that was really creepy.
Yeah,
they look like scarecrows, but then you realise that they're actually alive, and he sets fire to them, doesn't he? And
they burn well.
Yes, exactly. The chaos ensues with the building burning down. He manages to shoot someone, he punches an old lady in the face. Like you said, it goes very sort of action hero at that point.
Yes.
Yeah. And then does he shoot the monster, or does he hit it with an axe? I can't remember.
He axes.
I think he hits it with an axe.
But before he does that, it's given him visions again of the of the the trauma he's had, which at the end of it is him just trying to get beyond that, isn't it? He actually fights back rather than allowing himself.
Than hides
in the first time. Then he runs out of the woods, gets beyond the tree line, and then the monster won't come out, and then he just shouts at it.
Yeah. And that's like, what?
Yeah.
What did I miss? It's all over.
It's a bit too like, that's it, is it? Right, I see. He's going to got away a bit too easy. Well, not too easy. I know he's had to fight, but it's like, I was expecting there to be a final like, I thought like the twist would be, his escape is also a vision that he's being given. Something along those lines. You kind of half expect that. So when he did just kind of get away, I was a bit like...
Sorry, it's like he runs out of the woods just by accident as well. It's just crazy. I feel denied.
This film ends just abruptly. Watch any Hammer horror film.
Any Hammer film, any of them. We're stopped now. Bang. No, but as David said, it's that whole like, right, okay, the first police station you get to, I know Ross was saying, they're all going to be in on it, but just even imagine getting to the British Embassy. Well, what's happened to your friends? Well, they're all dead. And it's like, if like the death of one friend has caused him a load of trauma, I know he's fought back. But it's like, he may be back to square one here, I fear.
And I think we probably will find this was all a vision, which he had, and he just hacked all his friends to pieces whilst on that camping trip. And in the end, it says on Wikipedia that a car comes and picks him up, but I can't remember that happening. So
no, a car doesn't pick him up.
No,
you see that there's a car on the road, isn't there, which is suggesting civilization, and that there's
way in the distance.
But that was the ritual.
That's it.
So, what do we think, guys? David, we give our films a score out of 5. 5 being brilliant. 1, it's often we have gone into minus
figures.
But
that's especially on your recommendations.
What would you give this film out of 5?
I think it would be somewhere between 3 and 4,
which is 3.5.
Well, that'd be bang in the middle. Yeah, I really quite liked it, actually. It surprised me how much I enjoyed this. I didn't think I was going to till they found that hut in the woods. I thought it was quite formulaic.
Yeah.
And I'd forgotten how disappointed I was about the ending till just now.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's got a great monster. It's got some great kind of unexpected little twists, and the atmosphere is really good. It keeps you fully on the edge of your seat at times.
Yeah. Good. James, how about you?
Solid 3 for me.
Okay, so
I know I picked it, but I enjoyed it. Like I said, having only watched 5 minutes of it, I was pleased to have watched the whole thing. There were some really interesting bits, as we said, and I always kind of judge things on, does it make me think? Does it get me thinking about other things and other ideas? And it certainly did that. But didn't quite, you do think either with a bigger budget or with a bit more ambition, it could have been absolutely spectacular. Yeah. As it was, it did just feel a bit like point A, point B, point C. But still, I enjoyed watching it. Cool.
Well, I'm going to give it a 4 because I really enjoyed it. And I don't often watch things a second time. And I did, and it still held my attention. I would definitely recommend this to people, and even to non-horror fans, because I think it keeps you going. And there's nothing really horribly sort of gross in it, which is good, apart from, he says, just remembering that people's entrails are hanging out of their bodies. But it's not gratuitous, though, is it? It's not a case of
nightmare.
No, and it's not often you see a monster film where the monster is effectively just like a weird animal rather than something which is just like completely out there. I would recommend to you guys and to the listeners a film called No One Gets Out Alive, which is based on a novel by the same author of that this film was based on. It's on Netflix. It's about an immigrant from Mexico who going into America, and something happens where she gets ripped off and she's sort of stuck. And there's like a place which rents out rooms to people who are potentially want to stay off the grid, which obviously allows them to be exploited by nasty people who are running the house to do nasty things. And there is a similar kind of this is to do with like Mayan or sort of a Mayan, sort of some kind of god from that sort of time. And again, it's got a very unique, weird monster in that, which is cool, which is brilliant. And I would recommend that film. If you like this, go and watch No One Gets Out Alive. That's a good one.
Nice,
cool, brilliant.
Will do. I've written it down.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, cheers.
You're welcome.
David. Thank you,
it's been good fun.
Excellent.
It's been enjoyable.
Would you like people to look you up on social medias?
They're welcome to, though. I think they'd be sadly disappointed when they find me. But who knows? I may have grown some antlers and got some hands out of my fanny face by then. But just wear a costume.
I imagine David has got. I think you call yourself a collector of hobbies. So he has lots of hobbies like carving, archery, fishing, sketching, art. Skateboarding now as well, isn't it, David?
Yeah, I'm trying to be cool now. Yeah, skateboarding's gone on the list.
Yeah, so I would follow him on Twitter and Instagram because there'll be something which he spends his time doing which you'll find mildly interesting.
Or you can talk to me and give me a new hobby.
Exactly. Well, like we said,
always room for new hobbies.
I've given him I've forced him to do this Dark Darset podcast with me, so that'll be another new hobby. But David, what are your social medias? I'm
always at Fish Tits.
Spelled?
So that's PHISHTITZ.
Yeah, so look up David on there. And don't forget, we are on Twitter as General Witch1, the numeral 1. So you follow us on there. And
just search for General Witchfinders.
You'll find it on there. So next time we do a Folk and How, it's my turn to pick the film on this one. And the film we are going to be watching next time is a film called The Wailing, which is a South Korean film from 2016. I have got the South Korean, or the Korean word for it, Gokseong, but The Wailing, it's on Prime, I think, or Netflix. It's something I've wanted to watch for a while, and it was on that documentary we watched about folk horror, so it'd be on there. So for next time we do a Folk and How, which my daughter has only just worked out that it's a rude. It's a rude thing. Yeah. We'll be watching that. So thank you very much. It's brilliant to speak to you all again. And until next time, happy day.
Okay, take care, everyone.
Cheers. Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the General Witchfinders present Folk in Hell, a spin-off podcast. Find more episodes of this and the main show wherever you get your podcasts. Visit generalwitchfinders.com for more details. Commune with us on Twitter at GeneralWitch1 and help support the show on Patreon.
Oh my God! Christ!